33-story hotel and condo project.
I'd probably be
Okay,
like
like
that.
stop, tap.
This is a plan by the community for the community.
This one here, you showed me.
No problem, Ken. Thanks for having me.
It's Kent Mulgat for Kelowna Now. And we're joined by Rick Worrall, the organizer and star of the upcoming A Night of John Denver. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, this is a guy, John Denver, that was so big when he was big.
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying, for 3 years?
Right, no, for 3 years straight, he was the #1 selling artist in the world.
Wow.
Outselling everybody on RCA Records, yeah.
So I know people my age, have a real feel for John Denver. A lot of people can sing a couple of his songs,
Sure.
As best as they might be able to sing. But it's interesting, when I was talking to some young people about this event, they're saying, John who?
John.
So he didn't quite have the kind of name that endured the way Elvis and the Beatles did through the generations, but he was so big.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and I think part of that is what happened after the '70s, because that was when he was really big, was in the '70s, and of course in the '80s he became the guy that everybody kind of loved to hate, because he was so sugar coated, right?
Right.
And so it was always it's a bit of an interesting dichotomy with that. But I think what's interesting now is a lot of his songs are being redone in movies. I just saw 2 movies this year, Lucky Logan and also Kingsman 2, that had John Denver songs as the theme,
Right.
part of the theme. Country Roads and any song was in Kingsman, yeah.
And I guess he was unabashedly positive. I mean, you mentioned before that you can't find a minor note in any of his songs.
Well, it's not a minor note, but a minor key.
Okay.
Like he wrote in a major key,
Okay.
pretty well every single song. He might have started it with a minor chord, but it always resolved to a major. So it always had that uplifting effect. Opposed to blues, for example, blues is written in the minor. Most of blues is written in the minor. I shouldn't
Right.
say all of it, but a fair bit of it is written in the minor keys, and that sets a mood. It sets a tone.
Right.
Yeah.
It's too bad that some people might suggest there's something wrong with happiness, right? You've got to be brooding to be taken seriously.
Well, I think it's like anything, with the media, and back then we don't have the social media that we have today. And so back then, of course, because he wrote all these positive songs, but then he went through his own troubles, he divorced Annie and went through relationship problems, and there's, sometimes I think it's perception, right? The way people perceive somebody in the star spotlight.
Right.
So it's not easy, and today, by today's standards, I mean, he was so scrutinized back then. But imagine today, if it was social media the way it is, if it was back then. I mean,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
So tell me about this event.
Sure.
This is not just John Denver songs. You'll have the Okanagan Symphony Orchestra.
We have guests, the Okanagan Symphony Orchestra, and also Lee Holdridge, Lee is the original arranger conductor of every song you've heard of John Denver.
How were you able to get his original conductor arranger
Well,
to come and help you with this?
I don't know. I'm still pinching myself, because to me it's almost like a dream come true with having him be involved in this. And it came out of, I did a fill-in with the Okanagan Symphony a year and a bit, and it was for an Elton John show, and the gentleman that was supposed to be singing it became sick. And I got a panic call from my daughter, who works for the symphony, and she said, "How many Elton John songs do you know?" And I said, "Well, I know a lot. Why?" And I ended up doing that night in Penticton, and I did the next night in Vernon. And I really started thinking, well, I do this. This is what I've done all my life. Why am I not doing this? Why am I not out there promoting this kind of a concert event? And so I started looking for material, and I looked at a few artists, but I've always been a huge fan of John Denver. I grew up with that, and when I first started in the business, I was singing his songs in the club, and I probably know more John Denver songs than I know of any other artist.
Wow.
And so I started looking for the material and was really getting stumped. And then I remembered I saw John Denver in concert in 1974 at the CNE in Toronto, and he had a full orchestra. And I've always been, I've always paid attention to production, and Lee was conducting that orchestra back then. And I thought, wow, and then I did a little bit more research, and he's still around. I thought, I'm going to reach out to him and just say, do you have this material? And I did, and he came back to me within an hour. He wrote me back in an email in an hour. And he said, well, good news, bad news. I do, but I don't have the charts anymore because they were destroyed when John died. The manager at the time didn't want to hold on to them or pay the library fees to hold them. So he ended up destroying those. But he said, I still have all my handwritten charts.
Wow.
And he said, we can use those.
So he had to go to work to prepare.
Well, he sent copies to me, and I ended up putting those into the computer into a program that could print for orchestra. And it's been a year and a half we've been putting this together, and
Right.
so it's been.
When I think back to these John Denver songs, I'm not remembering the orchestra, but yet it was always there. I mean, these songs require an orchestra.
Well, not all of them. Some of them, were very, very basic. This old guitar he did many, many times just with the guitar.
Right.
Just nothing else. And Sunshine on My Shoulders again had. It had orchestra, but it was very subtle. It was strings. It was the guitar, and I think there was a flute and strings. But then you go to a full-blown arrangement like Annie's Song and Calypso that, is absolutely full-bore,
Right.
symphony. Yeah.
Okay, so this event is coming up starting March 29th and 30th in Kelowna,
In Kelowna.
the 31st in Vernon.
Correct.
And ticket sales are going all right?
Really, really good. Yeah.
But there's still seats available
There are
for
still
each of
seats
these?
available, but they're going very fast. So if you are interested, it's time
Right.
to get on it. Yeah. Don't wait till the last minute because
And it's at the Kelowna Community Theatre and at the Vernon
Performing Arts Center.
Performing Arts Center. So give us a little taste. You
Sure.
have a guitar here.
Sure.
And so we'll just make sure we get our audio levels dialed down so we don't mess things up here. But let's have a little taste. What are you going to play?
Well, this one is a pretty well-known song by John Denver fans. Probably the young kids probably will never heard it, but it's a nice one. I'll just do a little bit of it, and then I'll maybe do another one too.
Terrific.
I've been lately thinking about my lifetime, all the things I've done, and how it's been. And I can't help believing in my own mind. No, I'm gonna hate to see it end. I'd have to say it now, it's been a good life all in all. It's really fine to have a chance to hang around. Lie there by the fire and watch the evening tide with all my friends. My old lady sitting past the pipe around. And talk of homes and prayers and promises and things that we believe in. How sweet it is to love someone, how right it is to care. How long it's been since yesterday. What about tomorrow? What about our dreams and all the memories we share? A song called Poems, Prayers, and Promises. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, is the idea here to imitate John Denver? Is it a tribute? I mean, you sound not, your vocal qualities sound not unlike him.
Right. It's a very slippery slope. And one of the things, I love tribute acts. I really do. I think they have a great place here. But it's so dangerous, I think, to say, I'm a tribute act, walk out on stage, dress up like John Denver. It immediately puts the audience, for me, it immediately puts them in a critique mode. Does he sound like him? Does he look like him? Is this capturing what I was expecting? And so I really wanted to stay away from that. And just, it's a celebration of his music. I sing John Denver, that's the way I sing him. I just, sort of comes out that way. I know that we have similar qualities to our voice, similar, different things like the vibrato is very similar. He has a little thinner voice, not thinner, that's the wrong word, but it's a little higher pitch than mine.
Yeah.
But like I say, what I'm hoping is with all this going on, people sitting in the audience, it's going to be very reminiscent of his style.
Okay, another song in mind. Play maybe a couple of bars there, and then we'll
Sure.
put a bow on it.
Okay, let me just see. How about this one? This old guitar taught me to sing a love song. showed me how to laugh and how to cry. He introduced me to some friends of mine, brightened up some days, and helped me make it through some lonely nights. Oh, what a friend to have on a cold and lonely night.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rick Worrall.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that was really fun. And so, in case you missed it, that's coming up on the 29th and 30th in Kelowna at the Community Theatre and the 31st in Vernon. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
And you're watching Kelowna Now.